The wheels are going to come well and truly off. This is our final one of the day. Boys are ready to go live. We're almost ready to go live. And talking of live, we are Facebook Live at the moment. So big thanks to all the Facebook team. Give them a wave. They're up there. Facebook Live. Online. Time now for us to introduce your two HSBC rugby ambassadors. Have a look at this. Any Fijians in the crowd today? Any Fijians with us? One. Okay. Do we have any England rugby fans with us? A man who coached England Sevens to a World Cup final. A man who took Fiji Sevens to their first ever medal at an Olympics. In fact, it was a gold, backing up from an unprecedented back-to-back World Series title with Fiji Sevens. He's here as his role as an HSBC rugby ambassador. Please welcome Ben Ryan. Do we have any Irish rugby fans with us? The Irish are in good voice. We've got one of the best, in fact, one of the greatest players ever to pull on a jersey. For Leinster, Ireland and the Lions, he captained them all. Highest scoring centre of all time. Three-time Six Nations player of the tournament and Rugby World's player of the decade. Please, make some noise. Welcome. And it looks as bigger and better.
Yeah, doesn't it? It's been brilliant. I've enjoyed some pretty special performances. South Africa just purring along, Fiji playing some imperious stuff, and Australia also looking good. So it's wide open with England also leading the charge. Tomorrow you'll probably see, some outstanding games and some upsets, I hope. It would be nice to have the opening season series in Dubai with some big giant killing acts tomorrow.
I just saw you catching up with a couple of the Fijian boys just outside the chalet here. Have they given you an indication of how things are in camp at the moment?
They just wanted me to, they wanted to borrow some money.
Needless to say, they walked away empty-handed.
Yeah. We've talked a lot about Fiji, the impact they've had in the game. Times were down here in Dubai that Ireland used to have a Sevens team. Is that one of your regrets at the moment, that there's not more investment in Ireland Sevens?
Yeah, we took a 15-year sabbatical. When I started out in '99, we had a Sevens team, and then for financial reasons, that funding was cut, and then in recent years it's been brought back in. But I think we're a while away from seeing our team out on the HSBC circuit. Yes, we're playing kind of development games, and we tried to qualify for the Rio Olympics in Monaco just before in early 2016. But alas, I don't think that level of investment is being willing to be put in by the IRFU, and as a result, I think we'll struggle at that stage for a few years yet.
They also looked at the amount of money they'd be spending on sunblock in all the various places they went, and I understand that more than most. I was like the Firth of thank you. I'd like to say it suits me, but it doesn't. I was like the Firth of Forth Bridge in Fiji. You'd start with your 110 sunblock, and when you got to your head, you started again. Repainted myself.
You do have the bragging rights, though, Brikers. Interesting result from yesterday. Irish Development Women's Sevens team beating the Fijian Women's Sevens team yesterday.
Standard, yeah. No biggie. Conversely to the men's game, all the hockeyed Ben's old team.
But let's talk Fiji for a moment. After that extraordinary experience that you went through, the roller coaster ride, taking them to World Series, taking them all the way to the pinnacle of the game and winning that gold medal. Talk us through the reception you received back in Fiji once the plane eventually touched down.
Well, the Prime Minister who when I originally took over the job, is my boss. He was the dictator of the country. When he had his first coup, he delayed his coup by 24 hours because there was an important rugby match on. So he's got his priorities right: rugby first, then coup. He's also somebody that asked for the secret ingredients, herbs and spices of KFC and what they put in the coatings, and KFC said they weren't prepared to tell him, so he shut down every KFC overnight. Again, priorities.
Good guy, right?
Exactly, you got to love him. And so when we touched down and he had given 4 days bank holiday to the nation, they shut the airport and then they allowed the people to come onto the runway, and we had 3 days of celebrations. And then when I left to fly back home to London, they shut the airport, so the entire staff sang me a farewell song, which to date hasn't happened in Terminal 5 at Heathrow. I don't think it ever will. It's a humbling experience.
In terms of success and celebrating success, that great old phrase as well, Bright, you're a man who've been there, done that, whether it be for a club, for the British and Irish Lions, for country as well. What's the most memorable celebration of a victory that you can think of from your illustrious career?
I think with all good celebrations, you're not meant to remember them. And so I have plenty of them. I do remember in the Grand Slam in 2009, I actually got very unwell after the game. I don't know whether it was the emotion of it all, that the culmination of finally achieving some success, but I wasn't able to go out that night. And let me tell you, if anyone knows me out there, it takes a hell of a lot for me not to go out and celebrate something like that. So I was properly unwell, but I went down to the team room the next morning. The boys are still going and they're drinking out of the cup, and we get a flight home, and you know, the boys have had an hour's sleep on the plane, but they've had a couple of sandwiches. Anyway, we're parading the trophy down on Dawson Street down in the centre of Dublin, and the cup feels a little bit heavier than usual. So there's maybe a bit of liquor in there. I look in, as I'm lifting the trophy with Declan Kidney, there's sandwiches and cigarette butts and everything that you can possibly imagine. I was like, the Six Nations trophy being used as an ashtray. That is outrageous. You'd know the Paddies haven't won it for 61 years.
In terms of the celebration, we talk about the culture of rugby, celebrating success. How did the Fijian boys celebrate their success at the Olympics? Just give us an insight into that, if you can.
Well, after games, you know that you have to go through your normal media stuff, then you get drug tested. I had banned the team in the Olympic Village from having McDonald's, and it's free in the village, so there's queues going around in the Olympic Village, and after week 1, to reduce the queues, they said they're limiting the amount of items you could have per person down to 20. So as soon as we got back, they weren't on the booze, they went straight to the Big Mac Happy Meals. They were very happy, they had many meals. It worked out well.
Listen, we've got time against us, we've got questions aplenty on the floor. I'd like to hand over the microphone to a couple of you. Question here from the gentleman here. Yes, sir?
Who are you both supporting today?
John, I'll tell you a little bit in a minute. It's rare enough that you have an Irishman supporting the English boys, but I did a training session with them 6 weeks ago, their most difficult training session called the Death Zone. So I agreed to this somehow about 6 months ago. Must have happened around the time of Hong Kong. It all seems a bit hazy to agree to something like that. Anyway, I thought that day would never come, and eventually it did. And I'd done a small bit of training for it, but the idea is the Death Zone is the spot at Everest where humans have real difficulty in breathing, and then you have to, you know, kick on, and if you want to make the proper ascent to the summit. So this session was like nothing I'd ever done before. It's working under like excruciating pain, but then still trying to have clarity of thought, good quality of skills, passing, tackle technique, communication. So these English boys are in phenomenal condition, and it gives you an extra respect for how difficult it is. On top of all the temperature and the aggressive nature that the game is now played in, they are just in magnificent condition. So rare enough, I am probably going to support England for this one occasion.
Ben Ryan, Fiji, England, France.
Hey, look, I've always been fairly confused as to where I come from. My dad's Irish, my mum's Welsh. I'm a left-handed, short-sighted ginger that's also a Fijian chief and currently a consultant to the French national side. So, honestly, I'm covering my bases.
Uganda.
Uganda, that's the one.
Got a question here. Yes, sir.
I think you've maybe answered one of the questions about the temperature here, but which out of the global tour of the Rugby Sevens is the easiest venue to play?
The easiest or the...
Well, the most conducive to players, you know, to everything, temperature, sometimes too cold, sometimes too hot. You know, what is the best venue, not only on the pitch, but for the extracurricular activities as well?
Right. Well, Brian...
I only know the extracurricular, so will I answer that?
Brian enjoys Hong Kong, don't you?
Yeah, Hong Kong's good. You know, at least
You've had trouble breathing there once or twice.
50% of the people that take place go home in a body bag, but it's quite something. I would say, from a player perspective, never having been had the fortune of playing on the circuit, I look at all the climates, and this is very difficult to play in that temperature, as is, you know, Hong Kong at times. The players aren't getting involved in any of this messing going on. They might have a drink afterwards if they win, but I would say that Vancouver would be a perfect fit, because it's indoor, you know, well ventilated. There's a great crowd, great atmosphere, and that's the one that I've probably been most impressed with over the last couple of years, how the Canadians have completely taken a new game to their hearts and packed out the place, and I think all the players really enjoy playing there.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. Dubai is the fastest field, so you get to see the real quick boys, Lagarde and Norton and Perry Baker and Cardinals really put their foot down. So, and the players love playing in Dubai. They've been waiting for 6 months to play in the international series. The sun's on their backs. They do get to recover and rehydrate. So as far as pitches go, it's very hard to beat Dubai as far as the surface and the playing.
Got another question here. Yes, sir.
Given your own experiences as players and coaches and the results in November of the Autumn Internationals, do you think there should never ever be another Welsh Kiwi manager of the Lions again?
Yeah, well, the most recent coach has done all right, hasn't he? You know, he's been involved in 3 Lions tours. You know, the one in South Africa, he wasn't head coach. They won the series in 2013 and drew the series in New Zealand. So I don't know, if he's not doing a great job, I wouldn't like to be the next guy in there. Are you Scottish?
Ugandan.
Got another question here. Yes, sir.
So, Ben, once you said that culture eats strategy for breakfast, in sevens versus union, and also for teams that are typically the underdog, especially in terms of funding, how important would you say is culture versus things like, you know, excessive funding, and when you are the underdog and you're not really expected to do as well as certain teams have, how important is culture?
Yeah, you missed Brett Gosper at the last Q&A, I'm afraid. Jeez, that is an intense question.
It's a good question, really is. Yeah, sevens, the great thing about sevens is that you don't need a ton of money to be at the top table. And Samoa, Fiji, Kenya, Uganda, all of those guys can prove that. And you travel around the world, and if you're not tight as a team and you're not aligned as a group, when the pressure comes on there, then you'll start to crack. And I was very lucky with Fiji that we didn't have to have, you know, lots of money, because we had a very talented group that are from the villages, so they understood teamwork and togetherness and all those sort of things. And that's why sevens is a great vehicle for spreading the game across the world. And I've seen Madagascar, you know, I've seen the movie. I've also seen the sevens team, and they're really exciting. And there's some teams coming through that would never make 15s. A lot of the reasons will be funding, but in sevens, you can make a good career as a team with very little money.
Another question down here. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Brian, I'm not going to mention the Warren word, but the first 2 tests for the Lions in Australia in 2013. The ref just didn't like you, did he? What did you do to upset the ref?
Well, the second test didn't love me. Yeah, personally, I got on the wrong side of him a couple of times, penalised me, and then sometimes what you have to do is learn in games, is learn in real time that if a referee doesn't like what you're doing, you have to adapt your game slightly. So, yeah, listen, that's all been well documented, but the reality is, you look back at...
And why?
I would... Well, Rob Henderson, my Irish centre colleague, back in my early days, we toured together and played in the tired here, and he sounds as though he still wants to keep going. So do you just give him an old, do you know what, I'm just gonna turn over here, and hopefully he gets the message. But we were doing that for a while, and then Hendo goes, I'm hungry, I'm going to get a sandwich. And I'm like, oh no. Like, night before a test match, I've never played France over in Paris before. And he goes, you'll have a sandwich. Hendo, I'm actually grand. I really, really don't want a sandwich. I really don't want one. You're fine. I'll get a sandwich, and do you know what? If you don't eat it, you can have it in the morning. I was there, Hendo, I don't want one. Anyway, he orders the sandwich, and then you're sleeping going, the doorbell's going to go any second, and it's going to wake me. So anyway, it's 12 o'clock, he has a sandwich, and Hendo can't have a sandwich without finishing with a smoke afterwards. So here I am trying to prepare for playing France the next day with billows of smoke going through the room. Anyway, we went and won, I scored 3 tries, so Hendo was always encouraged to smoke thereafter.
I remember once as coach of England getting a knock on my door in Edinburgh, the Edinburgh Sevens, about 2 o'clock in the morning, and one of the boys knocking on my door saying, you better come into my room. And Isoa Ndamu, who was playing for England, was claiming he was being strangled by a ghost. And I hadn't really come across that before. It wasn't in level 4 RFU protocols what happens when one of your players is being strangled by a ghost. So I guess that was an odd one for me.
Was he being strangled by a ghost or not?
Well, he claims he was. Yeah,
Oh.
I mean.
Got another question.
You're calling him a liar?
Brian, regardless of national pride, which was a better achievement for you, captaining Ireland or captaining the Lions?
I've always treated them very differently. I don't think you can just use a one and the same answer for the two. Because of the calibre of player for the Lions, getting the nod for that probably just supersedes your national jersey. But for me, it's all about the success you have, whether you're playing or in your captaincy. And we ultimately fell very far short in 2005. So I look back on other days in green with fonder memories, having the captaincy because you get to lift the trophy. So I suppose, split in a way that it's such a huge honour, and there's so few Lions captains still in existence, still living. But yet, we didn't have success at the time.
Got another question down here. Yes, sir, over to you.
Hi, this is for Ben. Of course, England and Fiji, 2 of the top teams in sevens. Would you go for one of the emerging nations and bring them up to the standard that's required?
Yeah, look, I'm out of the game at the moment and just doing some consultancy and working in other sports. I think, yeah, I'd have to I'd like an emerging nation. I mean, I really get excited watching the Ugandans play, and I think they could be brilliant, giving a little bit of help. So who knows? There's plenty of teams out there, and yeah, I think probably that is where the next sort of job I'll take is an underdog and a smaller team.
Got another question here. Yes, sir.
Question for Brian. How do you feel about the future of Irish rugby?
I have to say, I think we're in good shape at the moment. I think we've got arguably the best coach in the world. Some English people with Eddie Jones would disagree with that, but I've been lucky enough to be coached by Joe Schmidt in the latter parts of my career, and he's world apart from anyone else. I also think we've got the right age profile of a team right at the moment. Guys coming into their late 20s, early 30s, in advance of the World Cup in 2 years' time. the reality is Ireland have been perennial underachievers in World Cups, never having gotten to a semi-final before. So it's high time that was changed, and I don't think we'll have a better opportunity with the group that we find ourselves in against Scotland, and emerging Scotland, who've been very impressive, and Japan, who'll be playing at home. But God, if we can't do it this time, I don't know when we will. So I think we're in good shape for the time being.
Time for a few more. Got a question down here. Yes, sir.
Brian, I was privileged to be at your last Irish game at home. What did the ovation you got mean to you?
Yeah, listen, it was absolutely lovely. I think it was the last home game, but when you still have one more to go and you have a trophy to play for, I think you try and take the emotion out of as much as possible. It's never about one person, albeit it was a lovely moment. You never know as well, as much as you never know how to deal with, saying goodnight to a roommate. Walking off the field to an ovation, you never really know. Should I wave? Is that, am I milking it too much? Should I acknowledge her some way? So I kind of walked off with this awkwardness of not really knowing. Plus as well, I had the embarrassment of declaring that I was not going to play beyond that year, way early on in the year. So it was this massively protracted, final year, final goodbyes. So I was almost embarrassed at that stage. I just wanted to be gone. So it was a lovely moment. But the reality was there was one more to play the following week, and there was a trophy at stake, and thankfully we won it.
Got a question here.
Sorry, Ben, you're sitting there looking good, but I'm going to ask Brian another question. Brian, 2023, will you ever buy the Mrs. Daffodils again, or will you ever eat haggis again? What's your thoughts on that whole thing, seeing you put so much time into it?
Yeah, obviously it's the disappointment that we felt as though we would have hosted a brilliant World Cup. I think the independent report really hurt us, having us down in third place. Had we been in second, I think we could have had a fighting chance, but down in third, to go from third to first was probably a stretch. With regard to the voting and not getting the votes from our Celtic brethren, the Scottish, in fairness to them, said they were never voting for us. Thanks a mill. They were always going to go with the most money, which was France. But the Welsh, we felt at times we had their vote, and what happened was Gareth Davis, their chairman, sat on a committee that came up with this new criteria as to how the World Cup nations would be voted for. So he felt, having come up with it, that they had to go with World Rugby's option, which was South Africa. So not only did he shoot us in the foot by not giving us the 3 votes, he also didn't get the job done by getting South Africa across the line. The reality is France are going to host a great World Cup. They've done it before, but we would have hosted a great World Cup, and we will do some other time when World Rugby don't only think it's about money, which is a big component of what they're at the moment.
What does the consultant to the French rugby team, Ben Ryan, think about France getting the World Cup in 2023?
Well, weirdly, they were very relaxed and confident of the day of the voting, so I think that probably tells you enough about what happened.
We weren't in the mix as far as they were concerned. They thought once they beat South Africa, it was job done. And there was a sense in the room that day when Bill Bowman held up the name with France written on it, even the celebrations were fairly contained. I would have been jumping up and kissing Bill Bowman had it read Ireland. And
they did that the night before, I think, didn't they?
It had a big evening, all right.
Got another question here.
Yeah, guys, there's Six Nations coming up. Should Georgia be in it, or should they not be in it? How's it going to expand?
They definitely deserve more Tier 1 games, and if you're going to expand it, Six Nations is a weird one because they're separate to World Rugby and to different things. They're their own side. Promotion relegation, perhaps, could be an interesting one. Put pressure on everyone. I know people the traditionalists won't like it, but it will keep everyone on their toes for sure. And Georgia certainly have worked remarkably well over the last few years. So I like red wine in Georgia. Have you ever been to Georgia?
No, never Georgia, no.
You'd like it, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, for the climate, there's no worries about sunblock, so I like it for that. Red wine's good.
I think what would be great, because they are, of the emerging countries, they seem to be head and shoulders above everyone else. Even they've surpassed Romania, that were probably that country for a number of years. You see the number of Georgian players playing throughout Europe just shows that their player base is growing exponentially. But the reality is with Six Nations that everyone bar England has found themselves at the bottom of the pile in the last 10 years or so. So be careful what you wish for, you know. If the thought of France having to play Georgia in a one-off game, there'll be squeaky bum time. And if for some way that Georgia managed to do it, France not in a Six Nations, that's pretty inconceivable also from a financial point of view. So there's way more factors than just the Georgians are worthy Six Nation participants. You've got to think of many streams to it.
Final question, fellas, before we get, well, a little surprise for us all here. Want to hear about vocal crowds that you've played in front of. Obviously, we heard about vocal crowds when you're playing your home game, but away. Which away fans most impressed you in terms of singing, atmosphere, gusto? It'll make sense in a minute as to what we're going to do next, but who were the most vocal away supporters you played with against?
Probably me as a player would have been going down to Scarlets and playing against Lefty Scarlets, yeah. They had a crazy priest at the time that was running up and down the side of the field shouting abuse at me. Again, picking out just because of my colour. Something I've had to endure across my career. So Scarlets for me, yeah. Any like going down into the valleys was often an amazing opportunity.
For me, undoubtedly, it was Wales. Undoubtedly. The Millennium Stadium, or the Principality, I think it's called now, is, without a shadow of a doubt, beyond Croke Park in Dublin, is the best atmosphere in World Rugby. Just the acoustics there, you know, roof closed or shut, it doesn't really matter. Obviously, it's a lot better when it's shut, but even when Ireland and Wales didn't have something to play for, a lot of the time they did. But even when they didn't, the chorus of music and the constant nature of it. It's not just sporadic song here or there. It's literally 80 minutes worth of singing and cheering and roaring. And I always loved playing in Cardiff.
Brian O'Driscoll, how is your singing voice these days?
Not as good as the Welsh.
Okay. Ben Ryan, how's your singing voice these days?
I have not got one.
We are going to excuse you from the next element because we are blessed to have, for the very first time here at the HSBC Premier Suite, in fact, for the very first time in the Sevens, we have been joined by the Dubai Male Voice Choir. So they're going to come up and do something of a rugby-inspired medley up here. I think they might even take requests, I don't know. As we let them muster down here, it remains for me just to say a big thank you to these fellas up here. Please put your hands together for Brian... Brian O'Driscoll and Ben Ryan. And as they make their way off the stage, we give up the stage to, please put your hands together, the Dubai Male Voice Choir are with us here today. DJ Reese will be on the ones and twos a little later on. There he is up there. Reese, we'll have you later in proceedings. Not though before we've had this very, very special performance from the Dubai Male Voice Choir. Feel free to join. Is it okay if they join in, fellas, or not? Oh, yeah, we'd encourage you to join in. So I'm going to hand over to the team. There you are.
I'll take it, Tom. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Hey, hello,
welcome.
Hi.
Welcome. First of all, how many of you here played rugby? How many here like singing? Okay, the whole thing we're going to do today is about you guys joining in and helping us to sing. We're going to sing just a couple of songs from various nationalities, and please join in. It's all about you joining in. Right, the first song we're going to sing is Flower of Scotland.
Right, 3 people go there.
Oh, flower of Scotland, when will we see your like again? That fought and died for your weeping hill and glen and stood against him. Proud Edward's army and sent him homeward to think again. The hills are bare. stand still. All of it is lost now, which those so dearly held that stood against him. Proud Edward's army, and sent him homeward to think again. Those days are past now, and in the past they must remain. But we can still rise now, and be the nation again that stood against him. Proud Edward's army, and sent him homeward to think again.
Okay, how many Irish have we got here? Okay. The second one, the well-known Fields of Athenry.
After the 3 and 10. 1, 2, 3.
By a lonely prison wall, I heard a young girl calling. Michael, they have taken you away, for you stole Trevelyan's corn, so the young might see the morn. Now a prison ship lies waiting in the bay. Lo, lie the fields of Athenry, where once we watched the small free birds fly. Our love was on the wing, we had dreams and songs to sing. It's so lonely round the fields of Athenry. By a lonely prison wall, I heard a young man calling. Nothing matters, Mary, when you're free. Against the famine and the crown, I rebelled, they cut me down. Now you must raise our child with dignity. Lie the fields of Athenry, where once we watched the small free birds fly. Our love was on the wing, we had dreams and songs to sing. It's so lonely round the fields of Athenry. By a lonely harbour wall, she watched the lost star falling, as that prison ship sailed out against the sky. Sure she'll wait and hope and pray for her love in Botany Bay. It's so lonely round the fields of Athenry. Lie the fields of Athenry, where once we watched the small free birds fly. Our love was on the wing, we had dreams and songs to sing. It's so lonely round the fields of Athenry.
Thank you, thank you. We did ask for a number of songbooks to be made so you could all remember the other verses, but never mind, it didn't happen. Okay, the fourth song, how many people are Welsh here? Okay, we're going to sing the well-known Welsh song Calan Lan.
Hey, what are we doing? Calan Lan.
No, I'm holding it over here. He needs to also... Soft?
So it's soft. So it's really soft to start off.
Shh. Shh. Shh.
Dwi'n gwybod yn bywyd moethus, a'r y byd na'i belai man. Gofyn wyf yn galon hapus, calon odes, calon lan, calon lan. landaioni, teha viuna liligos, dim ond calon lanon mani, cani dir a cani gros. If I cherish earthly treasures, swift they flee and all is vain. A clean heart enriched with virtues brings to me eternal gain. A clean heart overflowed with goodness, fairer than the lily white. A clean heart forever singing, singing through the day and night. Oira bor ever na miniad, esgyn ar a delydd can. Ar I ddiw mwyn fy nhaidwad, roedd I galon lan. Galon lan yn llawn daioni, teg ac yw na lili glos, dim ond calon lan ac gani, cani'r dydd a cani'r nos. Calon lan yn llawn daioni, teg ac yw na lili glos, dim ond calon lan ac gani, cani'r dydd a cani'r nos.
So, any English people here? Couple? One or two? Whilst we like God Save the Queen, we're not going to sing that, because that's boring. There's a song called Jerusalem.
Last song. Song 3.
And in those sweet, in ancient times, walk upon England's mountains green, and was the holy Lamb of God on England's pleasure pastures seen, and did the countenance divine shine forth upon our clouded hills, and was Jerusalem builded there amongst those dark satanic mills. Bring me my bow of burning gold, bring me my arrows of desire, bring me my spear of clouds unfold, bring me my chariots of fire. I will not cease from mental flight, nor shall my sword cease